City Council agenda meeting. At this time, we will have a pledge and an invocation, should she chooses, from Councilwoman Burris. Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Councilwoman Burris. At this time, I ask for the approval of the minutes. It's been moved and properly second. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye. Opposes nay. Motion carries. There will be no special presentations tonight, so we'll move on to ordinances on final reading. Madam Clerk, please read 5A.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Chapter 26, Article 1, Section 2622, by deleting the caption "reserved" and adding a new heading entitled "Non-Motorized Watercraft Public Launch Access."
What's your pleasure? It's been moved and properly second. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye. Opposes nay. Motion carries. 5B, please.
An ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 26, Section 26.3, relating to operation of vehicles in parks, Chapter 26, Section 26.4, relating to reckless speeds, Chapter 24, Section 24.33, relating to overtaking and passing of vehicles proceeding in the same direction, and Chapter 24, Sections 24.511 through 24.523, to establish rules and regulations relating to the operation of the regulation of dockless small vehicle sharing programs.
What's your pleasure? I'm sorry. Hold on. Sorry, Councilman Burrs. Would you hit your button, please? There you go. Thank you, ma'am.
All right. This has nothing to do with the scooters per se. It has to do, and I was waiting for Mr. Bailey to get here because we were trying to include he's not here yet. Is he coming? Hey, Blythe, you know the part in the scooter ordinance about liability? And I have the TCA site, and I didn't know if you had gotten it from Keith. Okay. I believe, Phil, can you pull up 77, whatever that site is?
What section are we looking for?
It's TCA 77
102.
102.
I did ask him, Councilwoman, about it. I went up to see him after.
It's
the fair, but
okay.
he couldn't-
I went ahead and got it. We've already, can you read that part in the ordinance that?
The,
Just read that section.
this is item 24.513E. Operators shall include in their agreements with users a term that users must agree to as a prerequisite to the use of the operator's small vehicles, that the user fully releases and waives all liability of the city for any injury or harm the user experiences arising from the user's use of the operator's small vehicle, and that the user assumes all risks associated with operating the small vehicle in the city.
Okay, so it's the assumption of the risk thing. And the TCA 77, and I believe everybody, you've agreed to that, right?
This is not a change, Councilwoman. This is.
It's not a
been in the-
change. That's what, yeah, there's no change.
Yes.
I'm just suggesting that we say in accordance with TCA 77-102. And what I wanted to make sure of is that we weren't overreaching, but I think we're not. Keith was supposed to have looked at this, and this is the second reading.
Yes, ma'am. That section, 70-7-102, talks about the person in control of land owes no duty to someone that might be
And
using
you
it
keep
for recreational
going,
activities.
yeah,
Yes.
recreational, yeah. Okay, you're the right.
Yes.
So I don't have an opinion on that, right, from Keith?
Not that I'm aware of. Let me see if there's an email from Mr. Reisman here this afternoon. He did not mention that when I went back to the office. Let me double check.
We didn't have the number, Councilwoman,
I-
when I
I
spoke with
know,
you after
I
the 3
know.
o'clock session, and he couldn't find it. So I wouldn't expect that Mr. Nava would have an email from him.
The last email I have from Mr. Reisman is on May the 6th here, referencing certain bullet points about where small vehicles should be allowed, and that's the last one I had.
I'm fine with the ordinance. And apparently, the people that are proposing it or behind it have agreed to the wording.
Yes,
I'm just saying that there's also a state law that talks about that. The wording sounds like the state law.
right.
I would just say in accordance with.
Yes, ma'am.
It protects the city and it requires the waiver, which is what we've already said.
Yes.
So, Mr. Chair, I don't know what your pleasure is, but I think we should be tight on that.
And
Okay. Yeah.
You're wanting to make that change to 513E to say in accordance with that section? Is that,
In accordance with TCA. That's what I was hoping, but I had asked for to make sure that I wasn't missing something. That's
Okay.
all.
okay?
So is that an amendment that she's making, or is it just?
Yeah, I'm ready to make the amendment. I had hoped we would have a legal opinion other than what I think. All right, yes, I move that we amend what the section is,
It's
which doesn't change the spirit at all. What is that?
It's 24-513E is what you just referenced.
Yeah, to say in accordance with TCA,
70-7-102.
yes,
Operators shall include in their
Yes.
agreements a term that the users
yes,
must waive.
yes,
Okay?
yes. I move that.
Okay. Okay, this is a motion for, okay, but first we got to get to the original one, then you're seconding the amendment.
All right, I move the original.
Okay. Okay, on the original motion, it's been moved and properly seconded. Any
Right,
questions?
then I move to amend, which
Okay.
I just did, and
Okay.
it's properly
It's been
seconded.
properly second, gotcha, okay. On the amendment,
That's about all we can vote on right now,
Okay.
yeah.
okay, great. It's been moved and properly second. Everybody in favor by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Poses nay? Okay, okay, we got one abstention.
Then I move the original as amended.
Okay. It's been moved and properly second by Councilman Mitchell. All in favor by the sign of aye. Poses nay? No. Okay, 2 no. Motion carries. Does it take it? No, it was an
There still
amendment.
needs to be one more reading then. Yes.
Okay, so that was the first reading, so now we got to, okay. So they took it back to first reading, so we have a second reading
Next week.
next week.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. Now we'll move on to ordinances on first reading. 6A, please.
An ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 16, Sections 1659 through 1666, to create the Police Advisory and Review Committee.
Councilman Gilbert. Move to approve. It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilwoman Coonrod. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye. Aye. Poses nay. Okay, with one abstention. Motion carries. Now we'll move on to resolutions. Madam Clerk, please read 7A, please.
A resolution authorizing a waiver of fees for the CHA Learning Days and Early Childhood Resource Event sponsored by WTCI at Miller Park on May 14, 2019, in the amount of $200.
What's your pleasure? It's been moved and properly second. Questions? All in favor by the sign of aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. B, please.
A resolution authorizing the Chief Human Resources Officer to enter into an agreement with Gallagher Benefits Services, Inc. to conduct a compensation study and implementation support for the city of Chattanooga for an amount not to exceed $150,000.
Councilman Gilbert.
Move to approve.
It's been moved and properly second by Councilwoman Burrs. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. C, please.
A resolution authorizing payment to the Southeast Tennessee Development District for 2019 assessment dues in the amount of $35,211.44, and the Regional Tourism Initiative in the amount of $5,000 for an amount not to exceed $40,211.54.
Councilwoman Burrs. It's been moved and properly second. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye. Opposed, nay. I'm going to have to abstain, Madam Clerk. 7D, please.
A resolution authorizing the award of contract number R15021-201 to Clenco Construction of Tennessee, Inc. of Chattanooga, Tennessee, Parks ADA improvements for the contract amount of $562,319.54 with a contingency amount of $56,232 for an amount not to exceed $618,551.54, subject to availability of funds.
Council, what's your pleasure?
Move approval.
It's been moved and properly second by Councilman Byrd. Councilman Mitchell, you have any questions?
Well, I was just going to move approval.
Oh, okay. Great. All in favor by the sign of aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. 7E, please, Madam Clerk.
A resolution authorizing the award of contract number Y19002-201 to JDH Company, Inc. of Chattanooga, Tennessee, replacement roofing system for Hickson YFD Center in the amount of $244,513 with a contingency amount of $24,000 for an amount not to exceed $268,513.
Councilman Ledford. Oh. Okay, it's been moved and properly second by Councilman Mitchell. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. F, please.
A resolution authorizing the Chattanooga Department of Transportation to erect commemorative secondary street name signs on Hamel Road from North Crescent Club Drive to Cassandra Smith Road, designating said portions of Hamel Road as Officer Nicholas Gallagher Road.
We have Councilman Henderson followed by Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's with great respect for one of our fallen heroes that we honor Officer Nicholas Gallagher tonight by commemorative street naming, and I move for approval.
Okay, Councilman Ledford.
Sir, as with honor, I second that.
It's been moved and properly second by Councilman Ledford. Any questions? All in favor by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Now we'll move on to purchases. Good evening, Bonnie.
Good evening. First purchase for tonight is on behalf of the fire department. It's for a new blanket contract for firefighters' leather boots to be awarded to North America Fire Equipment Company in an estimated annual amount of $125,000. Next, the 3 blanket contract renewals for the city attorney's office for sign language interpretation services to be awarded first to Partnership for Families, Children, and Adults, second to Chattanooga Interpreting LLC, and third to LTC Language Solutions in a total estimated annual amount of $90,000. Third, 2 new blanket contract renewals for youth and family development for the janitorial services for North River and Civic Center and Eastgate Senior Activity Center to be awarded to Certified Maintenance Services, Inc. in an estimated amount of $40,000. The remaining 7 purchases being on behalf of the Public Works Department. First being a new blanket contract for emulsified asphalt to be awarded to Hudson Materials Company, Inc., an estimated annual amount of $250,000. Next, an increase to the authorized expenditure for sewer treating chemicals, which is awarded to Kim Search. The increase will be $10,000, and the revised total estimated annual amount will be $60,000. Next, a new blanket contract for annual safety tests and inspections to be awarded to American Test Center in an estimated annual amount of $55,000. Next, the blanket contract renewal for bucket trucks to be awarded to Lee Smith, Inc., in an estimated annual amount of $665,000. Next, a blanket contract renewal for erosion control materials to be awarded to Gin Hill Construction Materials, an estimated annual amount of $34,000. Next, a blanket contract renewal for fire alarm monitoring and wet sprinkler system service to be awarded to Johnson Control Fire Protection LP, an estimated annual amount of $50,000. And finally, the blanket contract renewal for garbage and recycling containers to be awarded to WasteQuip LLC, an estimated annual amount of $400,000.
Councilwoman Burrs?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Bonnie, the second one down for the sign language interpretive services, does the third contractee have an office here?
Their address of record is in Indianapolis.
I know that. Do they have warm bodies here?
That would be the only address that I'm aware of.
I don't think we should be contracting with people that are in Indianapolis. If you're talking about sign language and interpretive services that the city attorney needs here, we're going to fly them in? What?
To my knowledge, we've had no complaints about their performance for the contract year that they've already completed.
Well, excuse me, can I ask the city attorney?
Sure.
Do they have bodies here, or are we doing something?
They actually
by
have
s-
bodies, as I understand it. These are for Title VI services here for the city of Chattanooga and making sure that there is availability of someone to be able to speak in the language that they
Right,
speak.
I don't want
Yeah.
them doing it over Skype. I want them here because there's nuances in interpretation.
Okay.
So are they here or are they Skyping it?
I do not know. I will have to get that information from you. If you want to take that off, we can deal with it next week on here. That's no problem.
I'd prefer that we take it off and deal with it next week.
No problem. We'll get that
I mean,
information
if
to
my
you.
colleagues agree.
Councilman Henderson?
Mara, or somebody, we had a sign language interpreter at the mayor's State of the City address. A warm body. Were they from this contract, or?
That's exactly what I was just going back to ask Amy or Carrie if they knew if that was who we contracted with. So if you could
Okay.
give me a moment to consult with my colleague, I would appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, I move to separate this purchase out and vote on the rest of them.
Okay, yes, we can. It's been moved by Councilman Mitchell and second by Councilman Henderson to remove LTC Language Solutions from this purchase. All it? The whole purchase. Okay, excellent, okay. So it's been moved and properly seconded to remove PO 549194, PO 549195, PO 549196 from today's purchases. All in favor? Opposes? Okay, item will be removed for consideration next week. It's been moved and properly second on the purchases. All in favor by the sign of aye. Opposes, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you, sir, and we'll get you all the detail on that for next week.
Thank you, Maura. Okay. Now we move on to other businesses. Is there any other business the council would love to share? Councilwoman Burrs.
Yes, sir. I want to brag about something really wonderful. Is Coach here? There you are. Coach, can you come up here? Last Saturday, Family Empowerment did a community event at Numa Christian Center International. And they're doing an event in each one of our districts to let people know the services we have available to empower families. It was probably one of the neatest events I've ever seen our city sponsor, co-jointly with an organization that did a fabulous job. There were people there from all over the city. How many people would you say were there, Coach?
Probably, they counted about a little over 400.
About 400 people. There was camaraderie, there was sharing of stories, sharing of ideas. The reason I'm saying this is you each got a copy of these events. The next one is in District 8 at Orchard Knob Missionary Baptist Church, I believe, and then 9, so forth and so on. But Coach, I got to tell you, I said I was going to embarrass you. It was probably one of the most fabulous events I've ever been to. It was handled by your department well. It was just a great meeting of people talking and sharing, and thank you so much for including me. And I encourage my colleagues, you've gotten this schedule. Please go to these things. They're really neat. And thank you so much, and to your department for making it happen so well.
Well, thank you.
I'm grateful.
Thank you, Councilwoman. We appreciate your attendance and all the support you give to your district and making stuff like that happen.
Thank you, sir.
We do encourage our other council people to help us get the word out in your district, and we've been working very hard with this outreach initiative to get the word out to help more people in the city of Chattanooga. So thank you very much for being there and your contribution, and all the help that our chair person for YFD has been giving us to pushing that out. So thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you, Councilwoman. Is there any other business? Now we'll move on to committee reports. Councilwoman Burrs.
Mr. Chair, we started the budget process today with pre-budget discussions on how we got here. Next week, the budget will be presented both to us and go online to the city. And we will have a week to study it, and then we will begin our education sessions the following week. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Byrd. No report. Councilwoman Coonrod.
It from Councilwoman Burrs how awesome YFD is doing, the great things they're doing in the community, and I encourage everybody that haven't responded back to Ms. Yolanda to make sure you respond back with your church location so we can come and replicate the same thing in your district to make sure that constituents are getting the services that they're needing from our Office of Empowerment. And I most definitely want to give Ms. Yolanda a shout out. If you all haven't met Ms. Yolanda Johnson yet, I encourage you to meet with her. She's a great individual, and she's the energy that's behind this, moving this force forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Gilbert.
No report.
Councilman Henderson.
I have no committee, sir.
Legislative body. How soon we forget. I'll explain it to you after the meeting. Councilman Ledford. Oh, There you go.
Thank you, Chairman. Planning and Zoning did meet today. We covered all items on our agenda, including an area plan update and also an update on our steep slopes and floodplains committee. Thank you.
You're welcome, Councilman. Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We will have a Public Works and Transportation Committee meeting next week after agenda session, and I would like to yield to Councilperson Coonrod so she can introduce her YFD committee meeting next week.
Okay. Thank you, councilpersons. Now, it is the time for recognition of person wishing to address the council on non-agenda items. Mr. Attorney, would you please read the rules? Yes, sir. At the end of each council business meeting, the chair can recognize members of the public that wish to talk to the council. These are your rules. Anyone that wants to speak to the council has to come up to the microphone that's provided in front. Can't have more than 3 minutes to speak. You have to address the council only upon matters within their legislative and quasi-judicial authority, and please address them to the entire body, not to individual members. Do not use any vulgar, obscene language, nor use the floor to personally attack or personally denigrate others. And as you are coming forward at this point in time, the council cannot recognize anyone who has spoken more than twice in any 30-day time period. But please come forward.
I thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is Frances Forrester, and I attended one of my first Beer Board meetings last week, and I came away with 2 problems. Number one, I understand that each council person has a say-so or that approaches a member of their group to serve on this body. This body is not being completed. They had 2 people that have for quite some time not showed up for a meeting. They've not had a full meeting, and therefore it led into another problem they had, which was inconsistency. Things are not, people that had not had a violation before got slapped with a violation. There was a gentleman there that had over 3 violations in the past, and because they did not have a full body, they couldn't even come to an agreement on what to do. And they were even entertaining the thought of dismissing. So I'm laying this at y'all's feet to see that you're each person that you've asked to represent on the Beer Board, if they're attending, and kind of get behind them. And if there's anything you can do as a body with the Beer Board to work more toward an amendment to see that there's more consistency done during the meetings, I think it would be greatly appreciated. Not just by your citizens, but by your individuals that are having to appear and that have these businesses. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Terry Grisham. I'm here representing Valley Brook community out in Hickson. And this is in regard to a newly proposed 38-unit, 3-building apartment complex at Shelby Circle, 1514, on the corner of Middle Valley Road and Shelby Circle. And we were not notified, the homeowners association, that this was proposed and gone to the planning committee, and we found out kind of late in the game. But I've spent the last day and a quarter gathering a petition against having the apartment complex built. And I expect by next week I should have a lot more of the residents, because this was just a real quickie just to tell you that most people are against it. We have a serious traffic problem going from Middle Valley right through Valley Brook Road to the other side of Hickson Pike. People cut through. And we are a family-oriented community, very stable, tranquil, so to speak, except for the roadway right down the middle. And now they're wanting to add 3 buildings with 38 units, which is probably extra 38 cars, or as many as 76, because a lot of people have 2 cars, 2 people for each apartment. And so we are overall just against building this. The traffic, as I said, is really heavy. We're worried about our property values going down with the apartment complex. We're okay with townhomes or individual residents. If we should end up having the apartments, one thing that you all could do is approve that we have sidewalks. We have a lot of walkers. We have elderly people. We have 3 bus stops with little kids from elementary school. And it's going to be painful if somebody dies because we didn't make the right decisions here next week. So we plead with you that you think about that. And I'll give you more information next week, or someone will. We have several people here from the community. But the main thing is our property values go down. The biggest is the safety of our elderly and our babies. And there's not a vegetative buffer between us and this community that's proposed. And the area was rezoned, and we didn't even know about it until the day that the rezoning committee did it. So we hope that you will help us either mitigate the situation or just turn it down. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. And I'll be hunting him down, Ken. So I don't know where he is, but I'm going to find him.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name is Nathan King. I'm a member of Concerned Citizens for Justice, and I live at 2511 Kirby Avenue. This is a statement written by Concerned Citizens for Justice regarding the Police Advisory and Review Committee that has been proposed by the City Council. And CCJ's open.
I'm sorry, sir, but that item was on the agenda, and citizens are not allowed to speak on items, as you probably are familiar with, that particular day. So
we wouldn't be able to say how this Administrative Review Board is going to be ineffective and not have accountability for the police department?
not today.
Okay. We wouldn't be able to say how similar it is to the existing Administrative Review Committee?
I'll close with this. Not today.
Not today.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, I'll close with this. Regarding a campaign.
Sir, you're out of order.
Regarding
Please.
a campaign that
You
is
are out of order.
not related to what the council discussed today. I would like to let everyone who is in attendance know that Concerned Citizens for Justice is involved in a campaign to build independent civilian oversight of the police
Sir,
department.
that is related to what we just spoke about, so I would please ask that you honor the rules of this council. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Jim Johnson from North Chattanooga, and I'm not going to talk to you about steep slopes, scooters, supermarkets, or anything of the like. What I am going to talk about is that about 21 years ago, if someone had said to me when I was living up in Massachusetts that I'd be moving to Tennessee, I would have said, yeah, you're crazy. A year later, I moved down here and fell in love with Chattanooga, and in the past 20 years have changed my life. Chattanooga has really changed my life. And so to sort of celebrate my 20th year in Chattanooga, what I've done is I've rented the new Miller Park. I've hired a bunch of bands, and we're going to have something called Bluegrass in the Park. It's going to start at noon with a farmer's market with strolling bluegrass musicians. At 3 o'clock, there is going to be a bluegrass jam session, and I'm told, but I do not have confirmation, that Mr. Bailey will be bringing his banjo. Is Blythe still here? No commitments, okay. And then at 5 o'clock, we will have 4 hours of music from some of the top local bluegrass bands, including, and one of the real inspirations to me was Fletcher Bright with his Three Sisters Bluegrass Festival. So the closing act is going to be his band, sort of in commemoration, the Dismembered Tennesseans. Also, I picked this particular weekend because it's when the Ironman 70.3 is here. One of the changes in my life that happened was I became a triathlete in Chattanooga, and so I thought this would be a good way to recognize all the families and athletes that will be coming here and give them something to do before their race the next day. So just my way of saying thank you to Chattanooga, and thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak?
May 18th.
Council, what's your pleasure? We are adjourned.